Hi, I'm Wayne Hartmann. I'm the coach advocate at NXT-9, and welcome to the coach video demo of the NXT-9 X-ray. In the next 16 minutes, I'm going to show you as a coach just how to use the NXT-9 X-ray and also share with you when you should use it. So let's get started. Right, so you're a business coach just like me, and if your life is like mine, we're always dealing with businesses that are small. They're always under time pressure. They're always short of cash. And they usually are run by a founder or a CEO that's stressed. The business isn't quite living up to expectations. Maybe the promises that have been made aren't being kept. So the CEO is stressed. You as the coach are now trying to work out how to help this business. And I find this all the time, and I found the NXT-9 X-ray that I want to show you this morning is a wonderful tool for working out very quickly where your and your client's efforts should focus, where they should focus their efforts in building their business. So I'm going to run you through it. And essentially, if you're going to scale a business, there are 8 different business disciplines that you've got to nail. You've got to nail strategy. You've got to know what this business is about, what problem you're solving for who and how you can build a business around it. Then you've got to turn that into an execution plan. What are we going to build? How are we going to build it? By when? Who's going to do what piece? You've got to devise an organization and populate it with A players. So your people side has got to be tidy. You need to have a place to go when you don't know the answers, your board and advisors, also governance input. Sales and marketing, if you don't sell the product, you're not going to go very far. Operations, when you've made that promise, you better keep it. Finance side, you need to make sure that the finances in the business are tidy. And then capital, making sure you've got the money to actually grow. All of these need to be nailed. And so what the X-ray does is essentially assesses the business versus best practice in those 8 different business disciplines. The sweet spot for this X-ray is a business that's scaling. We've applied it to businesses that are in the startup phase as well, but obviously not all of the elements, the disciplines are as relevant in that situation. So if the business is scaling, you apply the X-ray very quickly, then you will work out where you should focus your business building efforts next. So you've got lots of choices. You can work on lots of different things, but you've got to work on the right ones to make sure you get them in the right order and you build the business in the right sequence as well. So basically, what we do, I'm just going to show you the coach's dashboard over here. This is my coach dashboard. And in essence, what you do then as the coach is you add your client to the client database, you add in the contact, you fill in the details, and then you basically, this button over here is a send invite button. For the first time, you send them the invite. They then the CEO gets the invitation, and they appear in this column over here. And as they work through the X-ray, you get to the coach review stage and the completed stage. So I'm just going to show you inside the X-ray. So basically, now the CEO has got the invite. He or she answers the first few questions, and those are mostly around complexity inside the business and the industry they're in, to basically work out where they should be on each of those disciplines. At what level should they be? In a very complex business, it would be a level 5, and one that's very, very simple might be a level 2 or a level 3. So from that, we work out the required score. You can see the dotted line over here. Then there are a few questions that the CEO gets asked about their gut feel for where they are, and we plot those, and usually their gut feel is better than they actually are, as you would expect. We then ask them a lot of questions. This is a 2-hour survey, so we ask them a lot of questions on each of these disciplines and the sub-disciplines that underpin them and the practices that underpin those. And in each case, we've got a continuum on a scale of 1 to 5 to work out where they actually are. And we ask them questions, relative questions, to work out where they are on that continuum, and then we build it up. And essentially what we're doing then is we compare where they actually are versus where they need to be from their required score, and we look at the differences, and there's an algorithm that underpins this X-ray. It's been developed over the last 8 or so years, and it works out those gaps which are the priority ones that need to be worked on first. So in essence, then what happens is you understand where the gaps are, and then you work out where to work on them. We give a business maturity index. In this case, it's 36%. I've typically seen businesses in the range from around about 20 through to around about 70. More normally, the average is in the 40s or thereabouts. So then we go and we actually just have a look at what the X-ray results are. So once they've done the X-ray, in fact, what I should mention is once the CEO has done the first few questions, he or she is then asked who should do the survey. And this is an important question to answer. The people who should be doing it are the executives in the business, the top layer of people who understand this business pretty well, and as a result of that are best placed to answer the questions. So the CEO is asked for a name and a role and an email address, and the X-ray then pre-populates the sections that person might answer, and the CEO can adjust them. The X-ray is then sent out to each of those people. Once it's done, as I said to you just now, you will see the X-ray come back into your coach review box, and then you can have a look at it. And this is the view that we're actually having a look at now. This is the review section. So you then go and have a look at, first thing that you go look at is the team divergence. And the X-ray has the ability for you to tune out responses that are distortions. So, for example, here, Clive says we're at 2.3 for strategy. Everybody else says we're pretty dismal. So clearly that's an outlier. So what you can do via the Edit X-ray Respondents button is go and take Clive in or out. So this little button here switches at Clive's strategy questions on or off. So you can have a look at this to see where the divergence lies. And this information is useful in itself. What I find is quite often there is some divergence, and that's usually because the people running the business don't spend a lot of time talking to each other about where they are in their business building activities. And so that's useful in itself. So now you've got a feel for the team divergence. You can then go and have a look at the results, the next section. And when you're looking at these results, by the way, you can either look overall, as we're looking here, and you can see the spider graph and the score for that. But you can also look at each discipline. So you can see their score for strategies and auto over there, and you can see how they've panned out in each of the different sub-disciplines. Ditto for execution. You can see the elements there for execution, for people, the board and advisors piece, sales and marketing, operations, finance, and capital. Okay, so I'll go back to the overall section. Let's go back and have a look at the results. So just take strategy, for example. They need to be at a 4. They believe they're at 4.2, but they're actually at 0. So what has happened here? So you can expand that section and have a look. And you can see the sub-disciplines under strategy now. Competitive strategies 0. So that's where that 0 score is actually coming from. Certainly the algorithm uses a lowest common denominator kind of approach for strategy. Your weakest link is going to catch you out. Although future ready and game plan aren't too clever either. Go and have a look at competitive strategy, and you can see they've really got no defendable advantage. And you can even see the practices below that as well. You can see the scores for those. So this section lets you work out just where you are. So that gives you where the gaps actually are. So the question then is, so what about it? You come to the recommendations piece. So now what's going to happen is at a business level, it's going to give you the top 10 recommendations. Okay. If we just go through them here quickly, you can see first one is an inner circle issue. And that little triangle tells you there's a crisis brewing there. There are a collection of crises that might come up. And if they do, they go to the top of the pile. There are a few on strategy. You see there are 4 on strategy. So clearly this business needs to work on strategy. Well, we saw the score was 0 for strategy anyway. Execution needs some attention. There's 1 on finance and 1 on people. Okay, that's the top 10. But you as the coach have the ability to adjust these. So you can go to the Edit Recommendations button over here, click on them, and you can work through each of the disciplines and then their overall ranking, and you can actually go and add your part to this now. So for example here, you might decide that codifying and systematizing the customer relationship model is more important than number 4. So you can switch the positions there. And you can go in and you can go and make a recommendation. You can type your recommendations in here as well. What I typically do with these is I work out what I think their next step ought to be to fix the particular problem. And then you can go and type it in. Okay, so you can do this for each of the different sections, and typically each section has a top 5 recommendations, so you can adjust them. Sometimes they're a few less if they're pretty good, or if their requirement is pretty low, and sometimes there are a few more as well. So basically, you go through the disciplines, through the overall ranking next year, and then you can release the X-ray once you've done that piece. So then you end up then with a set of recommendations that have the responses. You can see the survey response. You can see in this case 83% of the people say the inner circle dynamic is not so good. And you can go to the recommendation section where it basically tells you this is what you should go and do about that issue. And you can see here I've added a comment as the coach. The inner circle dynamic need attention. Probably some kind of culture intervention, like a culture workshop, is probably a good idea. Sometimes you as the coach have inside knowledge about what's going on in that business, and then you have insights that the X-ray doesn't have, and you can tweak what the X-ray says. So now you know what you need to go and do, but it might be that you actually don't know what to do about it. Okay. And that's where the Academy section comes in handy. On the left-hand side here, you've got a collection of courses and resources. And both of them are designed to help you close the knowledge gaps that you might have. Just because you're building a business doesn't mean that you understand how to do it. In fact, my experience is most founder CEOs actually don't have a good grasp of best practice around building businesses. Of course, some do, but many don't. And this is a good place to come and find out. This Path to Scale Bootcamp over here is a great tool to work out what you're going to come across as you are scaling your business. It's got great stuff in it, and so you can actually go there and work out what the journey on the Path to Scale is actually going to look like. You can see there are boot camps here on strategy and on execution. There's one on culture, there's one on marketing. The A-game one is really about your personal operating system and being productive in your part of the business. And then there's one on scaling the Google way, and there's also one on talent. And we are busy adding more and more boot camps as we go to it. So there is really good material that will help you. And then there are a collection of resources here. There are 180 to 200 or so articles on different topics. You can go and search. Let's go search on culture, for example. And there are 8 different papers on different elements of culture. For example, 6 steps to building a strong company culture. You could go and have a look at in that and go and get some ideas about what to go and do. Okay, so what we're also finding is you as the coach will find that this Academy material is useful for you too. Just because we're coaches doesn't mean we know all of the material. Sometimes you might be a coach that is strong in certain of those 8 different business disciplines and maybe weaker in others. And this could be a source of learning material for you as well. So then back to the dashboard. So you can see now, essentially what's happened here is you and your client, the CEO or founder of that business, have used the X-ray to work out just where you should focus their efforts. And we say the top 10 here, if you're always working on your top 10, you should be in a good state. And once you've actually dealt with the recommendations, obviously it's then time to redo the X-ray. And I should say, in early 2023, we will be building in the ability to click on a link here and say, "Oh, well, I've carried out that recommendation." And what it'll then do is update your spider graph and your BMI score, and a new set of top 10 recommendations will emerge. So you'll always have a top 10. And so the intent is that your client is always engaged with this X-ray, and they're always using it to build their business. We've got a number of very, very good examples of CEOs who use this tool like that, and they use it to build their business on an ongoing basis. They work out where the priorities lie. They take those priorities, build them into their OKRs for the next quarter, and they then go and execute them, come back. And so they're on an ongoing basis. They are allocating ownership for different recommendations and then actually working on making them actually happen in the business. And of course, there's a bunch of support behind the product as well. If you've got a technical problem or you just don't understand something, you're able to get some help. Okay, so that is what the NXT-9 X-ray is about. It's a great tool, and I hope this little video has been of use to you. Thank you for watching the NXT-9 demo video for coaches. And if you think the NXT-9 X-ray might be of use to you, you can either go to the NXT-9 Coach website, the contact details are there on the screen, or you can book a time to have a follow-up discussion with me via my Calendly link. Either way will get you to get access to the X-ray. Thanks again.